it looks like we have all of our counselors present, and we have our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry. I believe our fire chief, Bob Whitman, is on the phone. Our treasurer, Manish Gulal, is there. Our planner, John Jackson, whom we're going to come to in a minute, is here. And then I see we also have a number of guests. So welcome to everybody. I will call the meeting to order. And we'll start as usual with the playing of the national anthem. The municipality of Whitestone recognizes all of Canada resides on traditional, unceded, and/or treaty lands of the Indigenous people of Turtle Island. We recognize our municipality on the Robinson Huron Treaty Territory is home to many past, present, and future Indigenous families. This acknowledgement of the land is a declaration of our commitment and collective responsibility to reconcile the past and to honor and value the culture, history, and relationships we have with one another. Thank you. I will now ask councilors if anyone has a pecuniary interest to declare. All right, hearing nothing, let the record show that there was none declared. I will now ask for a motion to approve the agenda for this evening, and you'll note that we're actually on item 6 of the agenda, having had a closed in-camera session prior to the supper hour. So can I get a mover and seconder, please, for tonight's agenda?
I'll move it, Councillor Lamb.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. Any discussion on the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I don't want to change the agenda. It's just I had a call today from someone who thought that the Ambience Fine Home application for rezoning was tonight. And of course, we changed that from tonight to July 5th. So I just wanted to state, if there's anyone else on the call who thinks that this is going to be on the agenda tonight, it's not going to be. So you may want to stay with us for other things, and I don't know whether there's any that are in that situation, but we will not be talking about that tonight. It will be on July 5th when we hopefully go back in person and on Zoom to hear the application. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. That's a good point. We did get some correspondence from folks who thought that that was going to be on the agenda tonight. So hopefully, anyway, hopefully those of you who are who have joined us will decide to stay. Anyway. So if there's no further discussion, is anyone opposed to this being the motion, this being the agenda? All right, thank you. The agenda is approved. And we do have two matters arising from the closed session that we held prior to the supper hour. The first one is to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 17th, 2022. So could I get a mover and seconder for that motion, please?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Gorham Matthews. Were you speaking, Councilor McEwen? I thought I saw your mouth move, but you're muted.
Yeah, I wasn't able to unmute, Mr. Mayor. I will second that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, this item was discussed previously. Anyone opposed to approving those minutes? Okay, thank you. And the second matter from closed was and we received a notice of resignation from Mrs. Barb Bolter from the Whitestone Library and Technology Center Board, because she's going to be moving away. So I would ask for a mover and seconder that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone accepts with regret the resignation of Mrs. Barb Bolter from the Whitestone Library and Technology Center Board, and that staff be requested to send a letter to Mrs. Bolter thanking her for her volunteer service on the board.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by,
I'll second, Councillor Woods.
thank you, Councillor Woods. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Lamb, I had the pleasure of serving on the library board for many years with Barb, and she was a valued member of the library board and a valued member in the community in terms of her volunteerism. And so I hate to see a volunteer like this leave the community, but I personally want to wish her, of course, good luck and as she moves out towards the East Coast. And again, thank you, Barb, for all your efforts. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I would certainly echo those Councillor Lamb's words. Barb's somebody that's been involved in a number of different ways in our community for quite a while, and we're going to miss her for sure. So, any opposition to this motion?
Can we get her to stay if we don't approve it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure about that. But anyway,
Mr. Mayor, if I could, your mic seems to be just a little distant.
is that better?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, sorry, I might have bumped it or something. It's one of these little boom mics on my headset. So, all right, thank you for drawing that to my attention. Okay, we now have a public, and the next item on our agenda, and item 9, is a public meeting having to do, and it's a public meeting because it is a zoning bylaw amendment. And it's a housekeeping amendment related to some definitions affecting short-term rental units. So it's not one of the larger items that we've been talking about at previous meetings, but we do handle these in a public meeting to give people an opportunity to comment if they wish. So I would ask for a mover and seconder that we move into public meeting.
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods, seconded by,
I'll
I'll-
second. Go ahead, Beth.
Oh, that's okay.
Well, I got Councilor McEwen this time, so we'll. So public meeting at 6:44 PM. And I'm assuming that that's agreeable to everyone. All right, thank you. The protocol for a public meeting is, first of all, that I introduce council and staff who are present. The councilors are in the order they are on my screen, showing on my Zoom screen. Councilor Joe McEwen, myself, Mayor Comrie, Councilor Gorham Matthews, Councilor Joe Lamb, and Councilor Brian Woods. We have our CAO clerk, Michelle Hendry, our treasurer, Manish Kulal, and our planner, John Jackson. And John is going to be participating in this part of the meeting. So welcome to all of those folks. And once again, I'll ask if there's any pecuniary interest to disclose in regards to the item that's on the agenda, this particular item. Okay, hearing none. The protocol is simply that anyone who wishes to speak is asked to please address your comments or your questions through the chairperson, that's me, and to also please state your name before speaking. So again, our subject is a proposed housekeeping amendment to the zoning bylaw relating to short-term rental units and really how they're defined in that bylaw. You have a report in front of you from our planner, John Jackson, dated April 25th, 2022. I'll first ask the clerk if she has received any letters or other correspondence in regards to this matter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No correspondence has been received.
Thank you. So next I'll ask John Jackson, who is our municipal planner, to present his report and introduce the subject. John?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Comrie, Council. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. The bylaw has been explained as being a housekeeping one. It is purely technical. In terms of the background, the municipality, 7 or 8 years ago, passed a licensing bylaw for dealing with short-term rentals, and it decided to set up a committee to review that particular legislation. And we had the benefit of some well-experienced bylaw professionals in terms of our own enforcement officer and his relationship with the Crown that has been somewhat specializing in this kind of legislation in hot areas such as Southern Ontario and around the Bruce Peninsula. And it's a two-phase kind of program where there's going to be some possible and likely changes to the rental licensing bylaw. But it was pointed out based on the Crown's experience that we needed to tweak the bylaw in terms of definitions mostly, and how that would enable a much better enforcement program so that the bylaw can turn into more, how should I say, friendly enforcement kind of legislation. So really, there's no significant impact to the use. The intent remains the same, but it's been indicated that it's preferred to have these little tweaking of language in the zoning bylaw so that we can go forward to producing a better licensing bylaw. So in hand with the zoning terms and the committee's next review of the legislation, we should have what I would call a better program in terms of managing that particular issue. So it's pretty straightforward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, John. I can now open up the floor to questions and comments from the public.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Mayor. It's Scott Nass. How are you this evening?
Fine, thank you, Scott. Welcome.
Good. I just had two really quick questions, if I could, if nobody else had put their hand up yet. I'm not on Zoom, so I'm not sure.
No, you're first. Go ahead.
Okay. The two questions are, I was just wondering, in the previous 8 years, how many infractions have been charged to people, or fines levied, or fines paid, I guess, for infractions that have been done? That's my first question. And the second one is, I know that a lot of the time for public meetings or items like that that happen in the community, you guys send an email out to road associations or lake associations, letting them know of the public meeting so that the public is notified of what's going on. I'm just wondering if that had been done for this public meeting on the rental. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I'll probably our CAO clerk is in best person to, in the best position to respond to these questions.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't have an answer to the first question. We would have to do some research on that. As for the second question, because it was how I understood it, maybe John Jackson can jump in. The note, because it's a municipally wide zoning amendment, we didn't send out notices because we didn't send out notices to everyone in the municipality. It was posted on our website. We do on occasion, but not always, send notices to road associations, and it's dependent on the matter that's up for discussion. Not all of our road associations have given us permission to utilize their email address, and therefore, because of privacy legislation, we can't simply send information to the road associations. So maybe John Jackson can jump in because he would have guided our planning assistant on how to give notice on this item.
Thank you, Michelle, through you. The notice was township wide, so the best platform for that was the website. Most people would have been certainly welcome to participate with that invitation. My sense is that this change, being purely technical and housekeeping, as was described by the chair, it shouldn't have a lot of import. It is more of an enforcement question that should we ever have to go through the enforcement, the recommendation from the committee's side was that we need to tweak these definitions in the bylaw so that we would be successful when we do go to enforce it. And I agree with Michelle. I'm not sure if Paul Rossiter is on the line, but he'd be the source to find out what the history of enforcement has been in regard to this legislation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. I think that answered my question. The reason I asked the second one was I know for the official plan amendment, it had gone out to road associations and lake associations. That's why I was wondering how it's picked and chosen when it does go out and when it doesn't go out. So thank you very much, both of you.
Yeah, perhaps I can just add a comment to what Mr. Jackson said. As you heard, this is sort of a first step, and it's relatively minor in terms of impact. it's in a larger process, and the larger process is to review and rework the bylaw in question related to short-term rentals. And um, the question that you asked, Scott, was, well, has there been enforcement action? And there certainly has been. Most of the time, as with other enforcement, there is compliance achieved by, by the enforcement officer drawing to the attention of the ratepayers involved, or the guests involved, or the renters involved, that they're in violation of a municipal bylaw. But from time to time, we have in the past gone to court over these, and in fact, that's a concern about making sure that the bylaw is enforceable has led to some of what we're doing tonight. But the actual short-term rental bylaw, which is in the process of being redrafted by a task force, will come before council at some point later on in the year. And when we do have those meetings, I'm sure that there will be, the municipality will be broadly circularized, and there will be lots of opportunity for people to attend and express their opinions, because there's a lot, that's where the meat of what the bylaw requires, and what constitutes compliance and what constitutes offenses and so on will be ratepayers will have much more opportunity when the time comes for that part of the project.
Mr. Mayor?
Okay. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, a couple comments. I mean, I was on council and helped draft the initial bylaw back 7 or 8 years ago. I rented for a number of years. I haven't for 10 years or so, but I know an awful lot about this, and I get an awful lot of people around the province who know me and send me information that I forward on to the task force. Obviously, I was on the task force until I was taken off a few months ago. But this is something that's sort of near and dear to my heart. And I think that, as you say, I guess if it's coming later on in the year, then that may mean a new council. But this is a big item, okay, that I would put to you that most people in the community have really no idea is coming at us for discussion. So I think it's critical when the bylaw actually comes and the changes come, that it be widely distributed, and it's a heck of a lot more than our website. People don't sit around and go to our website every day or every whatever. So it's a very, very important item. With Airbnbs and people buying cottages and homes for specifically renting year-round commercially, practically, it's a big item. And anyway, I'll have a lot more to say when the bylaw comes. I've already given my input on anything from like insurance to making the fines stiff enough that they mean something. If you're renting your place for $800 a night and it's $100 fine, it doesn't mean much to anyone. So, and also we have not had a number of people that the number of people that rent in our community that have a license are very few. So we've got to make it so that people will get a license, and we have to make it enforceable. So my question, I guess, on this, John, is what specifically are you changing in the bylaw? Is it to get rid of this 2-week leeway, which makes it very unenforceable, by the way, for the public? That's one of the keys. But anyway, what specifically are you changing in the bylaw? Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Through you, your worship. Yes, that's one of them. What the Crown, Paul Drake, has indicated is that that weakened the bylaw definition, and the actual specificity of the definition is altered ever so slightly in addition to that. And because the terminology has changed, wherever we used the term rental unit previously, it's now got to be short-term rental because we've changed the actual definition name, if you like. So a rental unit was permitted by law, subject to being licensed, and that's been added to all of the zones in the municipality zoning bylaw. So again, all very technical in nature. So those tweaks are coming straight out of the committee's recommendations.
But by passing this tonight, are we getting rid of I'm in support of it. Are we getting rid of the 2-week sort of freebie or is
Yes.
that to come later?
No, that 2-week grace, if you like, is now gone. It will be gone if this is passed.
Okay, and my question is very quickly, what else is gone?
Nothing else is gone in terms of the import or impact of the bylaw.
So it's basically the 2 weeks free kind of thing.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, just one question, I guess, or asking for a comment from Mr. Jackson. And we're deleting the rental unit definition per se and changing it with short-term rental unit. Maybe
Correct.
John could just comment on that.
It comes out of some prosecutions that our Crown has been involved with in Niagara Falls and over in the Bruce Peninsula, that the vagueness of rental unit versus short-term rental had to be distinguished. And so we're taking his lead on that. It's purely if you like, a principle that's been evolved during court proceedings.
Okay, all right, thanks.
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I had someone call me. They had read this and they asked me a question. I thought it was a good one. When it comes to the short-term rental, less than 30 days, do we have anything in the way of enforcement if someone, say, rented, I'm going to rent a cottage for 2 months, and then they rented it on behalf of, 5 family members. So for the next 2 months, every other weekend or every weekend, they're all going to change up, but it's still only rented out to one person. Is there anything in the bylaw to speak to that?
I think the short answer is there is nothing in this bylaw because this is the zoning bylaw that we're dealing with tonight. There could be something in the actual short-term rental bylaw. And I'm not sure because it's a work in progress at this point. I'm not sure that I can tell you if that would be covered or not, but it's something that we could make a note of for that task force to consider. It's
Okay.
I without and keep in mind, I mean, the work hasn't been finalized, but I don't recall that specific situation coming up as. So maybe I don't know. Councillor McEwen is might know, or our CAO clerk might know, but I don't think. I think we just have to make a note of it.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Mayor,
Go
just a
ahead,
quick
Councillor
comment.
McEwen.
I don't think it is totally resolved yet. It's something to take a note of. Again, we talked around it very briefly at one point, but we're working our way through it and we haven't really overcome that situation yet, in my mind.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to ask the question and maybe take note of it. Thanks very much. I appreciate it.
All right. Any other comments or questions from Members of the public? Or councilors? All right, if not, I believe we can reconvene into our regular meeting then. There will be a resolution coming forward later in the bylaws section of the meeting. So could I get a mover and seconder, please, to that this meeting be reconvened to the regular council meeting?
I'll move, Council McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen.
I'll
Second.
second, Councilor Woods.
Councillor Wood seconds, and it is 7:05 PM. Anyone opposed to this motion? Okay. We are back in regular session. And there is nothing arising from the public meeting until we get to the bylaws. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. And in the consent agenda, we have the regular council meeting minutes for Tuesday, June 7th, 2022. And the minutes of the Whitestone Environmental Committee meeting for June 8th, 2022. So could I get a mover and seconder, please, that the council of the municipality of Whitestone hereby approves the council meeting minutes of June 7th, 2022, and receives for information all other items contained in the consent agenda dating June 21st, 2022.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lamb, seconded by
I'll second, Council McEwen.
thank you, Councillor McKeon. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Yeah, under unfinished business, which I think is part of the consent agenda. Number 2, animal and bird control bylaw. That's been in unfinished business for, well, I guess it got referred to the Agricultural Advisory Committee in April of 2019, and the last update we've had is March 2020, it appears. So what's happened in the last 2+ years? Where's the animal and bird control bylaw?
Okay, would Councillor Gorham Matthews or the CAO clerk be in a position to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councillor Gorham Matthews had to leave the meeting for a few minutes. So I'll do my best. I generally know where this is. There was, the Agricultural Committee didn't meet throughout most of COVID. And they created what they thought was a good bylaw, but they needed some input with regard to zoning questions. Recently, I would say within the last 6 weeks, I met with John Jackson and Councillor Gorham Matthews, and Councillor Gorham Matthews seems to have resolved the issue of zoning and where the possibility of permitting animals, chickens, etc., within the community. She has now put together what she thinks is the bylaw, the information in the bylaw. She had passed it off to me a week ago to look at it from a clerk's perspective. So it is finally moving along. And I would say through the month of August, I'll be working on that bylaw, the rental unit bylaw, some other projects that are going to take some time and some effort, but I expect council will see this in September. Probably not the first meeting in September, but maybe the second. So it's a good question, and it finally does have some momentum. So council should see that draft anyway in the near future.
Well, my question is through you, Mr. Mayor, Michelle, it says animal and bird control bylaw. I know we've talked, it started off, I think, mostly about chickens. So, and I know we have a dog bylaw, so the animal part doesn't deal with dogs, but what's animals? Like is that cats and snakes and all kinds of animals, or is that, we're just talking chickens here?
Well, we're definitely talking chickens, rabbits, horses. I believe that this is one of the things that the committee took some time to talk about. They didn't want to just focus on chickens. So they wanted to look at what other animals people might have in their backyard if they don't have a farm. So I haven't dug into this bylaw, so I can't answer your question robustly, but that's what I'm hearing, that they wanted to expand it to other animals other than just chickens.
Okay, I know they have some good people on that committee, so I trust we're not going to over-regulate horses. But anyway, okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on the consent agenda? All right, then, is there any opposition to the motion to approve it? Receive or approve it? Okay, thank you. That's carried. That sorry, that brings us to accounts payable. I'm just there it is. Starting on page 31 of your package. But I get a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receive for information the accounts payable listing in the amount of $434,047.50 for the period June 1st, 2022 to June 15th, 2022.
I'll move, Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Councillor Woods, seconded by
I'll second Councillor McEwen.
Councillor McEwen. All right, any questions regarding these items?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I just had one, page 34 or 58, the Cloud Permit Inc. 600 is the payment number, I believe. It's $56.50, well, $5,650 for those that don't have an agenda in front of them. Is that a yearly service fee that we pay for the permit system?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, it is.
Where does it stand right now with the cloud permit system? Would be my next question. Are we using it right now, or are we still working towards making it part of our toolbox?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, there was a bit of delay, two delays. We changed CBOs, and then our current CBO was not working out of the office for a number of months because of the renovation. Of course, he's back in the office now. He recently had a number of training sessions, and I believe he has one more, and we'll start to see this, the permit implemented in the next month or so, as he's becoming familiar with the process, and he'll be working with the local contractors and giving them some guidance. So it's in process.
Okay, thank you very much.
Other questions concerning payables?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Councillor Lang.
Yeah. Yeah, on page 31 of 58, item 36548, Jamie Osborne, that's our building inspector. It's a little amount, but I just have a question. It says travel costs for McKellar inspection. I take it going to McKellar, he doesn't use our car for our that we have for the building inspector. Or maybe he was on his way from home to inspect, I don't know. But my real question, or my secondary question is, do we charge, like, I know we've got this arrangement that we use McKellar's building inspector when ours is off and vice versa. Do we charge things like this? And this is only a little amount, but do we charge costs like this back to McKellar, or how does it work between the two municipalities? Thank you.
To you, Mr. Mayor, to the councillor. To your first question, yes, Jamie was doing some inspections for McKellar. Mr. Osborne actually lives in McKellar, so he would have done these inspections before he actually came to work. So he
Okay.
would have charged the inspection cost somewhere in McKellar, wherever it took
Okay.
him. As for the other question, that's a good question. Up until this year, the two CBOs kind of kept track of their time, and it seemed to balance out a few hours off one way or the other, and we just called it a wash. We didn't bill them and they didn't bill us. It was a courtesy, and there was no extensive use of one CBO over another, and that seemed to work. That was a good working relationship with our neighbor. With the new clerk administrator in McKellar, they would prefer that we bill each time, so they have recently invoiced us for time that their CBO spent while our CBO was away, and we have some time that we'll probably bill them. And we're working out an agreement. There seemed to be a verbal agreement and possibly a very old written agreement that we can't seem to get our hands on. But it's really just a symbiotic relationship with the two municipalities. The two CBOs work well together. They know each other from previous jobs, and we just make sure that costs are recuperated.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other questions? All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I noticed
yeah,
Councillor
go
Gore
ahead.
Matthew is back. I don't know if you'd like to circle back to the question about the animal bylaw, but she is back with us in the meeting.
Okay, well, I might do that just once we finish this particular item. Is there just one final ask? Is there anything regarding payables? Okay, if not, I'll ask the question then, is anyone opposed to receiving this information? That's the motion. All right, thank you. So Councillor Gore Matthews, there was a question while you were away about the status of the animal and bird bylaw. And I guess the question was I mean, there were a couple of questions. What was the status of it? The CAO answered that your committee's excuse me, is working on it, and that something is likely to come forward to council in the fall. And the other question was what animals are covered, and was it just chickens, or were other animals covered, and what animals? But
Yeah, so, yeah, the CAO and Mr. Jackson and I met about a month ago, and he helped us with some of the stumbling blocks that the committee was having with regards to zoning bylaws and how to get around that in terms of agricultural use on certain types of property. And he was able to help us with that. So I condensed his suggestions into the draft that we had been working on, and I've sent it to our CAO, and when she has a moment, she's busy with some of the other bylaws that you have on the go, and we hope to have that out to everyone in the fall. it isn't just a chicken bylaw, it is a domestic animal and poultry bylaw. So there are people that are interested in having, say, a goat on their property or a horse that isn't zoned agriculture. So it's includes all kind of domestic type farm animals and birds.
Okay, thank you. We can now move on to item 12, which is staff reports. And the first one is a report in regard to the awarding of a contract to supply propane. So I'll read the motion and ask for a mover and seconder, and then then I'll ask our manager of public works to introduce this. That the motion I'm looking for is that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby receive report Public Works 2022-06 entitled Contract Award for the Supply of Propane and Propane Tank Services at Whitestone Facilities for information, and that the council of the municipality of Whitestone does hereby award the contract for the supply of propane and propane tank services to Moore Propane in the amount of 63.9 cents per liter plus HST hazmat fee per delivery and 0.0774 cents per liter carbon tax added to the price of propane until March 2023. And that staff be authorized to negotiate with Moore Propane for an additional 2 years of service for the best possible propane rates for the supply of propane and propane tank services. Could I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
Thank you. Seconded by,
I'll second.
Second.
Counselor Woods.
okay, I got Counselor Woods first, so it's moved and seconded. I will ask, I see that our manager of public works, Dave Creaser, has joined us. Dave, do you have any comments or any words of introduction for this?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, the municipality released an RFP, request for proposal for propane services. It was intended for 6 years. And that would include all our facilities. We also contacted the nursing station who did request that they be included in our pricing. And we only received the one submission from Moore Propane. And that submission was offered for, well, through March 2023 with a fixed rate pricing, or you'll see a very little difference on a floating rate. And this was Moore Propane says that there's all they're willing to do as pricing is under a lot of pressure right now through the global situation. I guess there's supply chain issues and also the war in Ukraine and redistribution of who gets what fuel. So as it stands now, we have an offer for a fixed rate to get us through to March 2023. Moore Propane, they have provided us services, propane services, tanks, and propane fuel, including inspections they inspect for all of our propane related equipment. So that would be our stoves in a community center, our furnaces. They check for leaks and at each location and all the fittings. And that's all included in the price. And they recently did that. That would have been this year, this spring and winter. They completed all our facilities. And from there, the staff requests that they be authorized to negotiate for an additional 2 years of service from Moore Propane with the best price. from there. So there is a slight reduction in cost or pricing from our current rate that we were paying as of our last bill. And that does align with the 2022 budget increases. We did increase the majority, did a modest increase for the majority of our facilities. And this will align with our budget. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, David. I'm just looking at, this is page 40 of the report. And in the listing of the bid that was received, if I read across the line, it says total price plus HST is 63.9 cents per liter. And then it says carbon tax added to the price of propane, and it's 0.774 cents. So is that in dollars? That's 0.0774. Is that so that is it's like 7.774 cents per liter that's being, well, what is the amount being added? Because it seems to be different from what it says in the motion that was moved a minute ago. Because the motion's supposed to be, is that in dollars per liter? I'm trying to figure out where the decimal place is supposed to be.
Yes, I do apologize. There's I got to pull that up. It does seem to be a 1 decimal place off. It's the I understood it to be less than 1 cent per liter, 0.7 cent per liter, not 0.7 cents per liter as indicated above. I'll have to
Okay.
confirm that, but I'm almost certain that that's the
Okay, because when I read the motion, I read it at 63.9 cents, but what it actually says is $0 and $0.639 per liter. And I think the 0.0774 is dollars per liter carbon tax and not cents. Would that make sense to you? In other words, it's 7 cents, or is it 7/10 of a cent?
0.7 of a cent.
Okay, all right, well,
And thank you for clarifying it. And
all right, so in cents
And
per
then
liter, there should be an extra zero in there after the decimal, I guess.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, on the line above the little chart there, the carbon tax is in there at $0.000774.
All right, okay, you're right, thank you, yeah, I was concerned about the fact that the motion seemed to be different from
Yeah.
that, but okay, we'll correct it, that's fine. We'll make it correspond to what the bid.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, this is a pretty good rate. There's quite a big consortium with Moore Propane in Whitestone. I belong to it. And I would say I'm not going to guess, but probably well over 100 people that are on it. And our rate was around 63 cents last year. So as the mover, I'm in agreement to a fixed rate versus a floating rate, because we don't know what's going to happen with inflation and everything. But and Moore is a good company, is my experience. So so good. So in essence, right now we're paying 72 cents, and I guess that's going down to 64 cents plus 7/10 of it, so 65 cents or so. So anyway, I will be happy to be the mover on this. I guess my only question is, why do you think Georgian Bay or other people didn't bid? You think they'd want the business?
David, any idea about that?
Or budget, or why didn't they respond, I wonder?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at the time, if we look back and see, the tender came out in April. And it was a scary time. I believe the invasion happened right around that time, sometime in March. And from there, Moore Propane said there was just so much craziness happening with the rates. And who was getting supplies and could they supply their customers? There was a lot going on, and they were quite intimidated. So it was maybe not the best timing to have a tender, but Moore Propane did give a reasonable price and a reduction. So
Sure.
the rate does seem to be competitive. I know I also have propane as well, and this rate is much better than what I pay. So the rate does appear to be competitive, but I can't speak to why the others. I should have reached out to them, but it was a crazy time.
Yeah,
Maybe-
so my final question is, this is for a 1-year period till March 2023. And what you're suggesting is we enter into a contract with them until March of 2023, and then you have the ability to extend it for 2 years based on whatever price they give you at that point. For in other words, we're not tied in for 6 years or 3 years at a price that's yet to be determined. Is what I said correct, or I'm not right?
We are looking to be authorized to negotiate with them to move into an additional 2-year contract, should the prices be very good, like low, the best price. So if they're not, then we'll have to go back to tender.
Okay, thank you. That answers my question.
Okay, thanks. Are there any other questions on this tender?
Mr. Mayor, I just have one quick one, if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
Well, I actually had two, but Councillor Lamb asked the one that I wanted to ask. The next one was, we got this report in the agenda and it's been circulated. Was it just a basic slip up that nobody signed it? The reports aren't signed. Normally they're signed. No?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I just noticed that myself and I made a note, where's the signed report? I've signed it and I believe Dave Creaser signed it. I'm just wondering why the signed report didn't get into the agenda, but we'll find out. An administrative issue.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Anything else? If not, then could I ask the clerk to call the roll for the vote, please?
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
Yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
Thank you. Item 12.2 is an item redelegation of authority for the purposes of administering the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. The motion is that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone receives for information report admin -2022-09 entitled Delegation of Authority for the Purposes of Administering the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act, otherwise known as MFIPA, and that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone does hereby delegate authority as head in quotation marks for the purposes of administering the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act to the CAO clerk. Could I get a mover and seconder for this, please?
I'll move, Council McEwen.
Thank you.
I'll
Second
second
by-
Counselor Lamb.
Thank you, Counselor Lamb. And I'll ask our CAO clerk to just explain this item a bit, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The MFIPA legislation has been around since 1991 with not a lot of change, and it really is the protection of the privacy of an individual's personal information. And from time to time, municipalities, and some more than others, will get an FOI request, a Freedom of Information request. Since I've been here at Whitestone, we had one back in 2018, I believe, but it was resolved because it was information that people would have had access to anyway. And sometimes people ask for information, and it's already on our website, or it's freely available to the public. But not always. And in which case you can avoid the whole process of the Freedom of Information filing and the reporting to the commissioner. So the municipality, and this being designated as the head is very typical for most municipalities. Otherwise, council itself would see each and every Freedom of Information request. And in some municipalities, they're quite frequent. So the municipality recently received 3 FOI requests, and I thought, well, it's time to designate the clerk as the head, and we designate the mayor, who then has to designate me, which is kind of an unusual process, but that's how it works. And then I manage that Freedom of Information request and provide, whatever information we can based on what the requester had asked for, if it's not confidential. And then I simply report to the commissioner at the end of the year, and I do a report to council at the end of the year on just a general overview of Freedom of Information requests. So that's what this report is about, is simply designating this to the CAO clerk, who then I can move these requests along a little quicker than bringing each and every one, if there are more, to a council meeting. So that hopefully explains it, and I tried to give as much information as I could in the report to explain what this process is all about.
Okay, thank you. Are there questions or comments from councilors regarding the report or the motion? All right, hearing nothing, do we need a recorded vote for this one, Madam CAO? Do you have any preference?
No, it's entirely up to you, Mr. Mayor. There is a bylaw later in the meeting. Well, the next item, there are 2 bylaws, one of them being related to this. So that
All right,
in itself will seal the
okay.
council's decision.
So is there any opposition then to this motion? All right, hearing none, we will proceed in a minute to deal with the bylaw. Thank you. And that does bring us to bylaws. The first one being the one that we discussed in the public meeting. I need a mover and seconder that bylaw 34-2022, being a bylaw to amend the Municipality of Whitestone zoning bylaw number 07-2018 as amended, for the purpose of enacting a revision of the definition of short-term rental unit, be read a first and second time this 21st day of June 2022, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 21st day of June 2022 and numbered 34-2022. Who would like to move that?
I'll move it, Counselor Lamb.
You, Councillor Lamb, seconded by
I'll second
Gorman.
Councilor McEwen.
I saw Councillor Gorman Matthews' hand go up, so thank you. We'll take her this time. Is there Any further discussion? If not, I will ask our CAO clerk to call the roll for the vote, please.
So sorry about that.
No.
Councillor Gore Matthews. Thank you, Councillor Lamb,
Yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes,
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
and Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
And now then to bylaw 35, 2022. Need a mover and seconder that bylaw 35-2022 being a bylaw to designate a head of the municipal corporation and delegate all powers and duties to the head to the CAO clerk for the purposes of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act. He read a first and second time this 21st day of June 2022, and further read a third time, passed and properly signed and sealed this 21st day of June 2022 and numbered bylaw 35-2022. Mover and seconder.
I'll move, Mr. Mayor, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you, Councillor McEwen. Seconded by
I'll second.
Councillor Gore Matthews. Thank you. Any further discussion? If not, I will once again ask our clerk to call the roll, please, for the vote.
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
yes,
Councillor McEwen,
Yes,
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes,
That motion is carried.
thank you. All right, that brings us to business matters, item 14.1, which is a report from me having to do with the AMO, the 2022 AMO conference in Ottawa on August 15th and 16th. And this item was brought up a couple of meetings ago. And there were various questions about, why we wanted to do this and so on. So I have provided some background for council. And I still believe that that it is in the interest of the municipality to for me to participate in this conference. So I have brought this forward again. Is there a mover and seconder, please, that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone received the briefing note prepared by Mayor George Comrie for information, and that the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone supports Mayor Comrie attending the 2022 AMO conference and reimbursing the costs associated with attending the conference in Ottawa, August 15th, 16th, 2022. Is there a mover and seconder?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Gorham Matthews. Seconded.
I'll second, Councilor McEwen.
Thank you. Discussion. Any comments or questions?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment that, I find it invaluable attending these types of events. I know in my own career profession that it's invigorating, it's educational to learn what opportunities are out there for the municipality. And I think it's important that we continue to have someone at the table at these events representing the municipality to learn about new opportunities and keep our finger on what's happening in the province and with other municipalities. It's great networking, and yeah, I've never been to one, but I did attend the one that you mentioned, the district one, a couple times before COVID, and it was very educational for myself.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments or questions?
Yeah, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that this is coming for approval, which is the way it should be, and that was my point 2 meetings ago. I agree with everything in the council briefing notes with respect to, the municipal organization and Roma and OGRA and the rest of them. The AMO conference, the history that I know of, and again, I stand to be corrected, but I think I'm right. Under Mayor Armstrong, that I served with for 12 years or something. The AMO conference was never seen as a conference that we would go to. It was seen more as mostly a big city conference. Having said that, I see in your note that there's some other things that you want to attend that are more country caucus and that sort of thing. But there's no doubt that this is more of a big city thing, I would say. So you want to go. I would note that you on your costs, you better have some meals, unless you're going to go without meals for a couple of days, but because they're not in there. So it's going to be $1,750 or so. So I will not be voting for it. I think this is something that a new council can deal with, even though it's a little bit of money. But I strongly support the Good Roads and the Roma conference, which is more attuned to items we have. And so anyway, I won't be voting for it, but I'm going to lose it. So that's democracy, and we'll move on. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are there other questions or comments? All right. They'll does that, do I understand then that you wish a recorded vote?
I think we should vote on it. Yeah.
All right. Madam Clerk?
Councillor Gore Matthews,
Yes.
Councillor Lamb,
No.
Councillor McEwen,
Yes.
Councillor Woods,
Yes.
Mayor Comrie.
Yes.
Thank you. That motion is carried.
All right, thank you. So we are now at correspondence.
If I may, Mr. Mayor,
Oh,
I was
sorry.
going to give an oral update on the swim program.
Oh, my apologies. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I wanted to let council know that as of today, we have not been successful in finding a swim instructor. We did find a young lady to be our swim supervisor, and she spent a lot of time about a month ago putting together policies and protocols and helping with the job description for the swim instructor. She then went off to Europe for a month because it was her last year of university kinesiology. And now she's back, and in that meantime, we've been trying to recruit for a swim instructor and have been unsuccessful. And what we found, which will be no surprise to council, is that the pandemic stopped a great deal of the number of young people that would have been certified to teach swimming lessons. And so the young people that were certified prior to the pandemic have already moved on to other jobs. have graduated university or doing other things. And the people that would have been certified these past few years have simply not been certified. So there is a shortage all around. Perry Sound actually canceled their swim program because of that. Our neighbors in McKellar did find someone. Apparently it's a young person from Scarborough whose family has a cottage in the area. We know that Magnetawan found someone, but we've been looking far and wide. We've advertised, reached out to other municipalities and just haven't been able to find someone. So we're not giving up right now, but I believe the decision is going to have to be made by this Friday, because that will take us a week before the typical registration, which would be the morning of July 1st. And, it's unfortunate. People look forward to it. We already have a number of registrations, but if we don't have a swim instructor, and our supervisor has a great number of qualifications, she let her certification go. So she's not certified as a swim instructor, and she's not interested at this point in going back and getting the certification because she's moving on with her career. We do have a plan B, and that we haven't thought a great deal about it, but it's a possibility that instead of a swim program for 3 weeks, we would have a morning day camp. And I'm thinking we could get some help from some teenagers. And if there's enough interest in the community, then we can, it would be about crafts and playing games and doing sports, but nothing to do with the beach or swimming. So we're looking into that possibility. And if in fact we have to cancel the swim program by the end of the week, we have to give families notice who may want to go to other municipalities, then we'll hopefully have time to pull together another day camp type program and see if there's interest in the community. And if that doesn't work, if there's not enough interest for that, then we will employ this young lady that we did hire, committed to hiring her for 3 weeks. And I'm sure there's work around the municipality that will keep her busy, and that we'll be able to keep our commitment for that. So that's the unfortunate news, but swim instructors are difficult to get for all municipalities at this point.
Okay, thank you for that report. And we're still beating the bushes, but it doesn't look great. Some of you will know that the mayor of Toronto was on the television not too long ago basically talking about this problem, which is threatening a number of the swim programs and pools of various kinds that the city of Toronto keeps open during the summer. So it's it sounds like it's a fairly widespread program, or a widespread problem, I mean. Anyway, that then brings us to correspondence, and we have 2 items, one being a letter from the City of Cambridge regarding greenhouse gas reductions, and a thank you note from the Perry Sound High School. So those are the 2 items. Can I get a mover and seconder for the following? Whereas the Council of the Municipality of Whitestone has reviewed the correspondence items as listed on page 5 of the June 21st, 2022 Council agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that Council receives the correspondence items for information with the following extracted for further discussion or action. Can I get a mover and seconder, please?
I'll move
that.
that. I'll second.
Councillor Gorham Matthews moves and Councillor McEwen seconds. Are there any of those that you wish to discuss? I guess if not, then we are just receiving them for information. Going once, going twice. All right, anyone opposed to receiving these items? Thank you, that's carried. So there are no matters arising from correspondence. And that brings us to councillor items. Are there any items that councillors wish to bring up?
Mr. Mayor, if I could.
Go ahead, Councillor Woods.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I received a couple of phone calls and had people send me pictures. I guess there's been some work going on over at the Gooseneck Lake at the boat launch. One person had said to me that they thought that some local contractors were in there doing the work. I just wanted to maybe get clarification during a meeting in case anybody's listening. If it was local contractors or if it was our actual municipal staff that did the work at the boat launch. And there was some gravel added to the approach to the launch and some trees taken down and whatnot. I just wanted to get an official answer that if it was a local contractor, it was our actual staff that was doing the work. That would be the first one. And the second one would be, when's the dock going in? That's the question that I think everybody is interested in getting the answer to.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I can
Okay.
answer both those questions.
Go ahead, please.
The work being done at the Gooseneck Lake boat launch is municipal staff. And council may remember that last year staff spent some time at the Shawanaga Lake boat launch and the Labrash Lake boat launch, just making general improvements, a little bit of gravel, grading, widening where needed, just tidying up the area so that it's presentable. None of those boat launches, including Gooseneck, had received much attention lately. So Gooseneck was on regardless of the fact that there's going to be a dock this year, Gooseneck was on the list of boat launches to attend to this year. And I had a look at it yesterday and it was looking pretty good, a little rough, but they finished everything today. And according to Dave, it looks good and it's presentable. And, you know, once you do a little bit of work, it's just maintenance. So for clarity, yes, it is municipal staff and they're finished. With regard to the dock, per council resolution, we have been working with the McGee Road Association. And it's taken a bit of time simply because I don't think Mr. Nash, who I think is still on the line, would mind me saying, he had been tied up at his home due to tornado and some efforts there. So we did have a meeting last Friday, and I think we've sorted out what really should go in the agreement, and it's very minimal compared to what the Wawakesh agreement looked like. But there's a bit of documentation and review that they're going to do for us. So today I was able to send a draft of the agreement, and once the agreement is signed, the council resolution said once the agreement is signed, then it will, we can put the dock in. The dock has arrived, and I'm not sure if council wants to see the agreement. They typically would, and it'll come to the July 5th meeting. Our public works manager is going to pour some concrete in a spot. I don't know the exact details of how it's going to go, but we're going to have the dock and the ramp and some concrete that I believe it's going to be all connected to. And that concrete, I believe, is coming next week. So everything is moving forward, and soon there will be a nice dock there for everyone to use.
Great, thank you. Does that answer your questions, Councillor Wood?
Yep. Thanks very much.
Okay. Other councillor items?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Lamb.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was at meeting with some people recently, and the bunny trail came up, and the people were saying, and I don't have my notes with me, but they were questioning the classification of the bunny trail. And I don't know whether it was a 4 or a 5 or a whatever, but trying to say it wasn't an artillery road, and it should be. And I'm quoting them, not me. And And secondly, they find the inconsistency with respect to the plowing, et cetera, of Whitestone. And I think it's McDougall that does the other half, or other part. It might be more than half, but and they were questioning why we couldn't, have some sort of swap so that, one party or the other does the entire bunny trail, and then we swap out some other roads. And I know we do that on a couple of roads. Gray Owl, I think, is one of them. And I think down the other end of town, there's one between us and Magnetawan. So I bring that up, not necessarily for an answer tonight, but I'd like an answer as to whether there's any merit in the classification of the bunny trail. And secondly, the idea of one municipality or the other doing the entire bunny trail in terms of plowing, mostly, I guess. But anyway, that's, I guess, my inquiry. Thank you.
Any comment, Madam CAO?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've just made note of those two items, and I'll certainly have a conversation with our Public Works manager.
And could that come back as a public item that will come as a report or something so that the public will know? Yeah, I don't know what the answers are, but
Through you, Mr. Yes, we can make that happen.
okay, thank you.
Any other councillor items?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I have a couple of comments. Or one
Go ahead,
request, I
Councillor McHugh.
suppose. It's come to my attention, and I've seen it in person, that center line of York Street is difficult to define. And I had a call this afternoon, actually, that someone almost got clipped on York Street because of someone speeding fairly briskly, I guess, and crossing the line, coming out the road. Question is, could a center line be considered for York Street? I think it may help. There's some fairly abrupt corners on the way into York Street, and not everyone takes the time and necessarily pays attention, I guess. So anyway, that's my first comment. And the second is, I received some positive notes and comments on the expansion at the office. People are impressed with what they see when they go in there. One comment was it makes it look and feel safer than it used to be, and I believe that's one of the items. The other comment was, gee, when I go in, I don't feel like I'm talking right into an open barrel. The whole open concept used to be pretty wide open and audible to a whisper in that whole office. So I felt the staff when I was in there the last time are quite pleased to see the recognition they're getting and attention on the office expansion there. So anyway, I'm pleased to hear that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I guess your question regarding the center line on York Street is something that we would refer to our manager of Public Works.
If you
Right,
would,
Michelle.
yes. Thank you.
Yes, through you,
Mr. Mayor?
I've made
Oh.
note of that. Oh, so my apologies, Councillor Lamb. It's
Sorry,
not,
I
center
remember
line.
bringing that up last year. That's all I'm saying. I remember someone brought that to my attention
Mhm.
last year, and I thought we were waiting for when the line people came into Dunchurch or something, is my recollection.
yes, sorry, my apologies for interrupting you, Councillor Lamb, but through you,
No.
Mr. Mayor. You're absolutely correct. When it was brought up last year, it was a little bit later than it is now. And line paint, there's not many line painters in Ontario, and once they come through the community, they don't come back. And they certainly wouldn't come back for York Street. So I believe this is on Dave's list of things to do. And he's well aware of the kind of potential danger of York Street. So it hasn't been forgotten, and we'll make sure if that it gets done this year.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillor? Oh, Councillor Gorham Matthews had one. Go ahead. You're muted.
Thank you. Yes, I have two. The first one was I had a a call from the school today, the Whitestone Lake School. They're looking for someone to present the award at the graduation ceremony next Tuesday. I've done it in the past before COVID. We haven't had a graduation ceremony in 2 years at the school. So I was just checking to see if anyone objected if I did it, or if there's any interest from another counselor or the mayor, if someone wants to attend the graduation ceremony and present the award. Normally there's a check and a certificate that you would present to the student that won the award from the municipality. I believe it's $50 that we donate.
Well, just speaking for myself, I'd be delighted if you would like to do that, Councillor Norm Matthews.
Okay, all right.
And
Yeah, I've done it before. I'm happy to go. A lot of those kids are near and dear to my heart because my daughter's in grade 7 and a lot of her friends are graduating from grade 8. So I'd love to be there and support them as they move through that day. So if nobody objects, I'm happy to do that.
do you know who the recipient is?
I do.
So you could give that information to our
Yeah, they
clerk so
have
that
it.
we could-
Yeah,
Oh,
the
okay.
municipality has it. Yeah, because I signed the check a couple months ago, maybe a month ago.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah,
Okay,
so
very
that's
well.
how I knew who was getting it.
All right.
The other item that I wanted to bring up was just give a little update on IceCap. We had joined that towards the end of last year, and I just wanted to update everyone that CAO Hendry and I attended a meeting last week with all the IceCap members, all the municipalities and community member groups that participate in it. And it was kind of an update of where all the municipalities sit in their progress through the milestones. Our municipality is still working on our milestone number 1 for the corporate milestone. It's a little challenging because we're working with 2016 data so that we're able to compare apples to apples with the other municipalities, because that's where they started back in 2018 when they joined. So we're learning some items about record keeping and some of the things that we could do better moving forward, but we are working on that. And it was nice at this meeting because there's a round table session towards the end, and you can hear about different grants and items that are of interest to all the municipalities that we can apply for that might help us in moving our municipality forward in some of our environmental initiatives. The one thing I wanted to point out, because I thought it was timely that we had gotten the report about the landfills just last meeting, and all the municipalities everywhere seem to be focusing on diversion of organics out of their landfill. It's a large portion of what goes over the hill in the bags, and when it's in the bag, it doesn't break down like it would as part of a compost, and it ends up giving off methane gas and different gases that are, raise your greenhouse gases. So I'd kind of like to see our municipality look at seriously at diversion of organics out of our landfill. It may be an option of reducing some of what goes over the hill in the household garbage. And there's a lot of people with knowledge about this in the community that could certainly contribute to that plan. And I'm sure our public works manager has access to what other municipalities are doing to move forward as well.
Okay, thank you. Any other councillor items?
Mr. Mayor, if I could real quick.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
Sure.
Yeah, getting back to the gooseneck dock. I don't exactly recall what our CEO had said about the agreement and what status it was, but the agreement, was it not simply just we wanted someone to take care of putting the dock in and out? That like, was that not what the resolution read? I thought
Madam
the
CAO?
resolution when we passed it, it was just that the dock would go in and out was the agreement. And is that still happening? Is it just that's what they want done?
I'm just, let me see if I can find that. No, that's actually, it's not exactly what the council resolution said. If you just give me a minute, I can pull it up here. So the resolution said that staff investigate the site of the Gooseneck Lake boat launch to determine upgrades required to roads and shoreline, and they've done that. Staff secure any crown lands of the installation with an organization representing local users is in place. So yeah, we're working on that agreement. Once the dock is installed, what the public works manager is telling me is that the dock will likely stay in. We brought a little bit closer to shore. It's the dock ramp that will be removed. And as I said previously, there's not a heck of a lot of maintenance that required, but we're honoring council's resolution that basically said there's an agreement in place. And we're hoping that the road user group will be our ears and our eyes out there, because it's not a place where, you know, once those improvements were done at the boat launch, it's not a place that our staff would normally go down. So the idea is that they would do just a once over quick inspection every couple of weeks, let us know if there's anything amiss, the signs are in place, nothing's happened to the dock or the dock ramp. And then that would be the crux of the agreement. And you know, possibly minor repairs if they're there and they can do them, but it's a brand new dock, so it's not going to need a lot of effort, certainly not in the next 3 to 5 years.
I missed a little bit of what you said at the beginning. I apologize, but I did pull up a copy of the resolution, and I think I missed out on part 2 and 3. I heard you say staff investigate the site, which is all done. But third one said an agreement for ongoing maintenance of the installation. Is that not just in and out, or am I completely off on this one?
Well, the way we interpret it, through you, Mr. Mayor, the way staff interpreted that is the ongoing maintenance of the installation being the dock itself.
Yeah,
Okay.
if I can, the other agreements that we have in place of this nature give the responsibility to the local association to check the docks periodically, determine if there are minor repairs that are necessary, things that are loose, or hazards that might affect people using the dock. You know, if there's you know, if the approach to the dock is easy to fall off or something like that, you know, then they would either make repairs to the dock, and in some cases they actually replace, you know, parts of the dock that need replacing, or do that kind of thing. If they don't do that, then they would draw to the attention of the municipality that there's something that needs to be done, so that because it is effectively our property, it's our liability as a municipality. And so as the CAO explained, the local association is the eyes and ears of the municipality, and they're checking to make sure that things are in good order and that there aren't any hazards that could become you know, problematic for the users of the dock. And they'll either fix it themselves, or they'll tell us about it if it's something more major that requires the assistance of the municipality to deal with. So that's what was in, that's
Okay.
what was meant by that was, sorry, that's that's the model on which that clause in the motion you're reading was based, really.
Okay,
If I may, Mr. Mayor, oh, my apologies. I just wanted to add one more item, and that is a lot of this has come from our public works manager, and one of the things he thought of is that, and I have to say the road group was quite agreeable to taking the dock in and out, and that was, you know, one of the first drafts of the agreement. But our public works manager felt confident that it's an asset that belongs to the municipality, and it would just be part of the normal spring work to put the dock ramp back in, take it out in the fall, and in fact, at that point, do a very thorough inspection just to make sure everything is in order. So we appreciate that the road group offered to do this work, but the public works manager was quite confident that they're somewhat insistent that this work be done by municipal staff, and they take responsibility for that part of the agreement.
If, I mean, Mr. Mayor, I think you said it best. Essentially, it's our property. Should we not be having a staff member going out there to cut grass? I mean, I know it hasn't been done regularly by staff in all the years that I've been here, but I mean, if it is our property and we've just spent this money upgrading it, shouldn't we be going out and cutting the grass? And if someone's out there cutting the grass, then they can look at the dock? Like, am I way off on this?
Sorry, I don't have an answer for your question. I mean, maybe that's, I guess that's, we're going a bit on the precedent that we've had before. We don't have, as I guess you know, that what you described is what happens to the docks that are in Dunchurch at the main municipal site. Historically, I guess we felt that we didn't have resources to deal with docks that are farther away, and the only examples that we have that are, you know, docks that were placed by the municipality, to my knowledge, maybe I'm missing one, but there's the ones on Washkesh, and there's the ones at Bolger Landing, and the Bolger Landing ones have been looked after entirely by the Cottagers Association, and until very recently, the ones that on the Washkesh have been looked after entirely by the Conservation Association. So I guess that's just the model that that we thought at the time would apply to this particular one. And if you recall, the request for the dock at Gooseneck, which hasn't been there for a long time, it really hasn't been there since the MNR had a dock there. And it was requested by a group of local people. Scott Nash was one of the presenters, and I think he's still on the line, but they volunteered to do a bunch of things. So I guess I thought we were taking them up on it.
Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. I'll leave it at that. I'm sure everybody wants to finish up, not listen to me anymore.
Well, okay, thanks. I mean, I guess these are all things that could have further discussion, I suppose. When we see how many more situations like that we get, it may be we may have to revisit the subject. Anyway, anything else under councilor items? If not, we have time for questions from the public, if there are any.
Yeah, hello, Mr. Mayor. It's Scott Nash. How are you?
Okay,
Again.
thank you. Yeah.
I just had a really quick question in regards to the freedom of information. I was surprised that it wasn't talked about more. And I guess it might be a couple questions, but it might be a couple comments. I guess I was wondering, first of all, from what I understand for Freedom of Information Act, that the request is made public. So I was wondering if the municipality posted on their website who asked for the request, or if you guys can let the public know tonight. And then the second part to that is, from what I understand from a recent bylaw that you've passed, I think it's bylaw 09/2022, there's fees associated with collecting the information and fees for requesting the Freedom of Information Act. So I'm just wondering how that is done, if the people that requested the information are sent a bill when it's done. I think if I read Schedule J correct, it's based on staff time. So I was just wondering what those rates are, and how that's done to seek payment for that, if there's a deposit made, and really who the request was made by, how that's made public. And then the second part, just on the boat launch, I think I'll wait till it comes back to to council in a couple weeks. But the only comment I'd have on that, I know the CAO, Michelle, and I have worked through it, and she sent us a draft today. And I think it just comes down to really how frequent is a maintenance visit required? Is it a periodic maintenance visit? How often do staff go down to boat launches in general? So I think that's the part that's being worked out right now. Just for a quick little update on that, but I'm sure we'll get through that in the next week or two, the CAO and I. And that's all. Thank you very much. So I'll be curious to know the answers on the freedom of information. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. I'll let the CAO respond to your question, since she's the person who deals with these requests.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is fairly new territory to me, so I'm not going to reveal tonight in a public forum who made the FOI request. I'll get some advice on that to make sure I do that correctly. In terms of fees, there is a fee. It's not very much. It's $5 per request. Some municipalities actually have a fee structure in place for instance, if a freedom of information request is going to take a significant amount of staff time, and I don't know how you define significant, maybe more than an hour, and it requires going into vaults and digging through boxes and getting information from years gone by, municipalities will charge per hour for that. This isn't something the municipality has contemplated at this time, and it's up to the head, who is now me, to create a fee structure just in case that happens. My experience, or my discussions with other municipalities on just general freedom of information requests that don't, as I say, significantly, and of course that's hard to define, staff time, then there is no charge. It's $5 fee. If it takes hours and hours and days of people's time, and I've experienced that in other municipalities I've worked in, then there is a fee. But at this point, we don't have a fee structure in place. And at some point in the next little while, I'll probably, when we do the fees and charges bylaw update, that's something I would look at. Just in case that happens.
Okay, thanks a lot. And I think under a bylaw that was just updated in 2022, bylaw 09/2022, it reads freedom of information research, in brackets, staff time and photocopying actual costs. So I would say that is for any time that's put to it. It's not up to anybody's discretion. It's time billed for. And then it says freedom of information request is $5. So I would hope that to be fair to all the taxpayers, if people are asking for information, that they're billed at the municipalities' cost is that's what your bylaw reads, actual costs. And that's under section J of a recent bylaw just passed in 2022. So I would hope that the town would abide to that. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other or any other questions from the public? Sorry. All right, if not, I'll entertain a motion then for our confirmatory bylaw. The
I'll
bylaw third.
make the motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Lamb. Seconded by,
I'll second. Counselor McEwen.
thank you, Councillor McEwen. That bylaw 36-2022 being the confirmatory bylaw for the council meeting of Tuesday, June 21st, 2022. Be given a first, second, third, and final reading and is passed as of this date. I'm assuming everyone is in agreement with that. And finally, a motion to adjourn.
I'll move. Councillor Wood.
Thank you, Councillor Wood, seconded by
I'll second.
Councillor Gorham Matthews. Whereas the business of this meeting is concluded, now therefore be it resolved that this meeting is adjourned at 8:25 p.m. until the next regular council meeting of July 5th, 2022 at 6:30 p.m. or at the call of the chair. And just a reminder that the plan is that this meeting will be a hybrid meeting, meaning that those who wish to show up in person at the community center can participate there, and those who wish to participate remotely via Zoom can do likewise. And hopefully you will all be able to at least hear each other. Not everybody will see everybody, but you should be able to hear all right. So again, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Good night, everyone.
We're
Good night.
adjourned.
Good night.
Folks.